Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari. Yasura Nandana Braja Janaranjano. Yasura Nandana Braja Janaranjano. Jamuna Tira Bonachari. Jamuna Tira Bonachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sisi Radha Madhava ki, Sisi Radha Giridhari. Jayo Vishnuvar Paramhamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shodha Rishi Maharaj Divine Grace Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Bhubari Ki Jai. Jayo Vishnuvar Paramhamsa Parivraj Gajaja Shodha Rishi Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Bhubari Ki Jai. srimadbhagavatam ki Nantukoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. You my bodyguard?
I was going to take you.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was a dangerous crowd.
I can watch somebody.
Of all the devotees here, I would like you to be my bodyguard, so. Like Brahmananda. Okay, so. This morning we're reading from the srimadbhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 12, text 5. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Adirayat. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Should be a fired up class. About 6 tulsi leaves just went into my mouth. It's like having breakfast before class. Tat gacha durvam bhadram te bhagavantam adhoksajam sarvabhutatma bhavina sarvabhutatma vingraham Tad gacha durva bhadram te bhagavantam adhoksajam sarvabhutatma bhavina sarvabhutatma vingraham Tad gacha durvam bhadram te bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vigraham. Anyone like to chant? Bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vigraham dambadam tre bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vigraham Tadgaja durvabhadram te bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vingraham Tadgaja durvabhadram te bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vingraham Tadgacha durvabhadram te bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vingraham Dhangaja durvabhadram te bhagavantam aroksajam sarvabhutatma bhavena sarvabhutatma vingraham. Has anyone memorized it yet? Bhagavantam bhavena bhutatma vingraham. There you go. Give him an extra helping of oatmeal at breakfast there. Okay. Synonyms. Tat, therefore. Gacha, come. Dhruva, dhruva. Bhadram, good fortune. Te, unto you. Bhagavantam, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adhoksajam, who is beyond the concepts of material senses. Sarvabhuta, all living entities. Atma bhavena, by thinking of them as one. Sarvabhuta, in all living entities. Atma, the Supersoul. Vigraham, having form. Translation of Prabhupada by Srila Prabhupada. Who's speaking here? Yeah, you just lost your extra helping of oatmeal. Yeah, this is a new chapter. You spoke. Who's speaking here? It was Kuvera, isn't it? Maitreya spoke, and then he said Kuvera. Is it Kuvera? Yes, the treasurer, because the yakshas are related to him, so he's speaking. Okay. My dear Dhruva, come forward. May the Lord always grace you with good fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond our sensory perception, is the supersoul of all living entities, and thus all entities are one without distinction. Begin therefore to render service unto the transcendental form of the Lord, who is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. Please repeat. My dear Dhruva, come forward. May the Lord always grace you with good fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond our sensory perception, is the supersoul of all living entities. And thus all entities are one, without distinction. Begin therefore to render service unto the transcendental form of the Lord, who is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. Do you have that memorized? Just testing. You have good memory. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here the word Vigraham, having specific form, is very significant, for it indicates that the Absolute Truth is ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is explained in the Brahma Samhita, Satchidananda Vigraha, first verse of the 5th chapter. He has form, but his form is different from any kind of material form. The living entities are the marginal energy of the Supreme Form. As such, they are not different from the Supreme Form, but at the same time they are not equal to the Supreme Form. Dhruva Maharaj is advised herewith to render service unto the Supreme Form. That will include service to other individual forms. For example, a tree has a form, and when water is poured on the root of the tree, the other forms, the leaves, twigs, flowers, and fruits, are automatically watered. The Mayavada conception that because the Absolute Truth is everything, he must be formless, is rejected here. Rather, it is confirmed that the Absolute Truth has form, yet he is all-pervading. Nothing is independent of him. Om Agyan Dhimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksul Unminitam Dinataismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Vanchagabhadrubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevaja Badidanam Bhavani Bho Vaishnavi Bho Namo Namaha. So with your good wishes, I'll try to say something appropriate. Thank you. Thank you for your good wishes. Okay, translation again. If possible, it's a good idea not to put tulsi in the water, because it can get stuck in the speaker's throat. Unless you want a short class and an early breakfast. If that's your plan, then put a bunch of tulsi in there. So, Yeah, Mukunda, he likes prasad. My dear Dhruva, come forward. May this Lord always grace you with good fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond our sensory perception, is the supersoul of all living entities, and thus all entities are one without distinction. Begin therefore to render service unto the transcendental form of the Lord, who is the shelter of all living entities. So, of course, Prabhupada in the purport speaks about the word Vigraham. Before that, I'd like to speak about the words Badram Te. Badram Te. You ever hear this? Anyone ever say that to you? Badram Te? Badram Te? What does it mean? Badram Te. Right there in the Sanskrit. Good fortune. May you be blessed. Like that. Good fortune. Badram Te. So, you see here that Kuvera is giving a blessing. And it's a very important understanding, because really our good fortune in life, or our advancement in Krishna consciousness, is based upon people giving us blessings. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada, yasya prasadam nagati katopi. When was the last time you chanted that verse? This morning, right? It's right there in the Gurvastakam. That by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets Krishna's mercy. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, one doesn't get anything. So in other words, the blessings of superiors upon juniors is extremely important, and is actually a key in spiritual life. What we're trying to do is please the predecessors, please our authorities, the predecessors, please the Guru, senior Vaishnavas. You can say even the Devatas. The Devatas are pleased. How are they really pleased? You have people worshiping the demigods, doing all kinds of pujas for Lord Shiva, Lord Durga Mata, different. But what really pleases the demigods is when they see a devotee. Devotee is all pleasing, is a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and then they're inclined to Bhadramte, give a blessing. May all good fortune be there for you. So really that's our, what do they call it? Modus operandi? Is that the word? Modus operandi. You know what that means? How's your Latin? Is that Latin, right? Modus operandi. What does that mean? Yeah, modus. What's the reason you're doing what you're doing? Your modus operandi, like that. So, in spiritual life, that's what we're trying to do. Please, that's all we really can do, is please the spiritual master. There's a story that Tamal Krishna Maharaj told when he was in India, had some kind of operation, very ill or something, or had some kind of operation. And he went into the hospital. I think Prabhupada was concerned. I tried to stop it and send him back to America, because he figured you go to a hospital in India, especially in the 70s, who knows what you're going to come out missing or dead or something. But anyways, he went and had the operation, like maybe an appendicitis or whatever it was. And he told Prabhupada that he had a dream. He had a dream that Prabhupada was there, and all his previous acharyas were there, the Goswamis, his spiritual master, and so on, and they were asking Prabhupada how everything was going with his preaching and so on. And Prabhupada was saying that that all his disciples in the West and so on are pretty unqualified, very, very unqualified, coming from lechas and yavana stock and so on. But they are very, very, very sold out to me, very, very attached to me. With love and devotion, do anything like that. And the indication from the acharyas was that was our saving grace. That was it. We're completely unqualified. Our only saving grace is that we're trying to please Prabhupada. Prabhupada liked the dream. He said that's exactly that's the fact. In other words, what is our qualification? We have no qualification whatsoever. But by trying to please the spiritual master, by trying to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the assembly of Vaishnavas, then there's some hope for us that we're qualified to be picked up. I was reading recently in a book, I forget which one, by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, right? Getting mixed up with Tirtha Maharaj. Yeah, he passed away. Bhakti Tirtha Swami, right? And he was saying that really what we're trying to do in Krishna consciousness is just qualified to get picked up. We have no qualification for going on our own. It's like just getting out and getting at the bus stop on time. Do you get picked up by Krishna and the acharyas and the spiritual master? That's what we're trying to do, because we have no qualification of our own to go, but if we're in the right place at the right time, they'll pick us up and bring us. So actually that's what we're doing in Kali Yuga. We're so fallen, we don't qualify, but if we can somehow or other get over there and get picked up, we can go back to Godhead. So that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get picked up. Get in the van, let's go. Get in the flower airplane, let's go. Like that. Just happen to be there. Just qualify to get picked up. That's what we're trying to do. Because on our own we can't qualify to do everything that's necessary to go back home, back to Godhead, but we can try to qualify to get picked up. And that is pleasing the spiritual master, pleasing the previous acharyas and the Vaishnavas. They're pleased with us, Bhadram Te, then our life is successful. So something to meditate on, this word Bhadram Te. Next, Prabhupada speaking about this word Vigraham, which means has specific form. It's the last word of the verse. If you don't believe me, you can ask Jamal. He memorized the verse. I'll tell you, it's the last word. Vigraham means form. And Prabhupada is referring here to what is the famous verse? The first verse of the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita. It's like a chorus here. Okay. Nadir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So this Ishvara Parama Krishna. So Lord Brahma is speaking about Krishna. Now, is Lord Brahma a good authority? Obviously, he's a very good authority. He's the creator of this universe. All the Vedic literatures are emanating. He's enlightened within the heart by Krishna himself and all transcendental knowledge. So this is his conclusion, is Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That's very important here because talking about Vigraha means form. And the impersonalists, they're saying all form is material and spiritual must have no form. Now it's an interesting question, is why do we think that? Right? The mundane idea is that whatever it is that's spiritual must have nothing of any relationship to anything we see in this material world. So there can't be any form, there can't be any personality, there can't be any relationships. But why? Why do we default to that definition of spirituality? Is there any reason to? Did anyone whisper in our ear or something? Or, I mean, you think about it for a second. Why is it that we default to that? There's no reason. And that's why in our literature we're saying here, understanding is that's completely wrong. There is form, but it's Satchidananda. It's eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. There's no form in the material world like that. Is there anything in this material world that's eternal, full of bliss and knowledge? I haven't seen it. I haven't heard of it. There's nothing in this material energy. The forms in this material world are just the opposite. Right? Achit, asat, achit, nirananda. Prabhupada explains that in the Bhagavad Gita introduction. So just the opposite. Sat means eternal, so asat means everything. All the forms in the material world are temporary. Chit means full of knowledge, so everything in the material world is dull ignorance. Where is the knowledge? Can you ask this table here to give class tomorrow? Right? To put it up here and give class. There's no knowledge is going to come from this form. Right? And the last one is, instead of ananda, material forms are nirananda. Right? Did anyone disagree with that one? As far as the material body being a source of suffering? No, they're not near Ananda. Long, very far from Ananda. Not Ananda, near Ananda. There's no bliss. So there's a difference. We say there's no material form in the spiritual world, but there's spiritual form. And Krishna has a form, Satchidananda, Anadir Adir. So, I mean, this is, in that 4 lines, the absolute truth is described in perfection. Quite amazing. So the point here is this Vigraha. So Dhruva Maharaj, he doesn't, you could say, need to be reminded. He's a pure devotee, but he's enlivened when there's discussion of devotional service. So Varun is here, Kuvera here is just talking about what does it mean, good fortune, if you bless someone to be engaged in devotional service. It's like, what was Prabhupada's, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's blessing whenever he met someone? What was his blessing? Yeah, Krishna Imitatus. May you become Krishna conscious. Right. That. Sometimes people ask you for a blessing. Oh, they see you're a saintly person, a Vaishnava. Oh, give me a blessing. Give my children some blessings. Bless us, bless us. So what the main blessing is, Krishna Imitatus. May you become Krishna conscious. May Krishna bless you. That. So, and the real blessing is devotional service. In the material world, we think the blessing is some type of happiness in this material world. Who was it? Was it the Brahmin that was not allowed into the kirtans of Srivasanga? And then they wouldn't let him in. Well, this is the one where then when he met Nimai later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later, and he cursed him. He cursed them. You'll never be happy in this material world. He got all upset that you're not letting me in there because he wasn't qualified. And he goes, oh, I curse you. You'll never be happy in this material world. And what did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do when he heard that? How would you like that? Someone said, I curse you. You'll never be happy in this material world. You probably say, you're too late. I already know that. No. But what did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? He was in ecstasy. He said, oh, thank you so much. Like that. What a blessing. What a blessing. That's how a devotee thinks. That's why they think devotees are crazy. They're not interested in the so-called happiness of the material world. It's a big burden. The so-called happiness of the material world. Prahlad Maharaj has a verse like that. What is it? Do you know the Sanskrit for that? Bharam, the big burden of material life. It's just a big burden. We all have to carry it. And they think the bigger the burden, the more successful they are. Right? The bigger the burden, the bigger the bank account, the bigger the house, the bigger the cars, the bigger this, the bigger that. Oh, very, very nice. But this is a huge burden. It's a gigantic weight like that. And then at any moment it just all comes crashing down. One becomes crushed by the whole thing. So there's this big burden of material life. So I bless you. What is that story that's told about the old woman who used to collect wood? She would collect wood every day. Her family left her and so on. You know how you get old and kids go off and get married. So she was collecting just kindling and so on in the forest and bringing it back, trying to make some kind of a living and so on. And big bundle, and she'd go out all day and bring it back and sell it in the marketplace and so on. And it says that one day she had this big bundle on it, and she was so tired and so on, it fell off. She said, oh, Krishna, please help me. She's so tired and so, just that day and with her life, she said, oh, Krishna, please just help me. And Krishna appeared to her. She said, well, okay, you want my help, what can I do for you? She said, oh, could you help me get this bundle of sticks back on my head? Krishna said, that's all you want? He said, oh, yeah. So he said, okay, here you go. He lifted it up and put it on her head, and she walked into the marketplace. So you're asking Krishna, please put the burden back on my head instead of, get me out of the material world. So asking for the badrante of, oh, may you get married and have 10 sons, may you this and that, and it's all these different benedictions and so on, a lot of wealth and so on. Devotee thinks that's very dangerous. That's not a benediction at all. In comparison, especially devotional service, that's why Kuvera here is saying, may you be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, who's that Supreme Lord in the heart, super soul, and making the point also that all living entities are one. So there could be a little understanding of what's being actually said here. This sarvabhutatma bhavina, saying who is the super soul of all living entities, and thus all entities are one without distinction. So what does that mean? We're all one? So Prabhupada says in the purport, he spells it out very, very carefully here, that the living entities are the marginal energy of the Supreme Form. As such, they are not different from the Supreme Form, but at the same time, they're not equal to the Supreme Form. Qualitatively, we're all the same as Krishna. Qualitatively. We're all Satchidananda Vigraha, but we're not Adya Nadir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. We're not the cause of all causes. We're not the Supreme Lord. But we have those qualities, just like a drop of water has the same quality as the ocean. Take a drop out. Qualitatively is one, but not quantitatively. So in that sense, we're all one. And we're all part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, Prabhupada brings out the point in the end of the purport that by rendering service to Krishna, you are actually rendering service to all living entities, just like when you water the root of a tree, all the parts of the tree are automatically watered. So the greatest welfare work, the greatest service you can do is rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all living entities benefit, just like I'm watering the root, but somehow or other, all the tree, all the branches and tree of the tree, and all the leaves and twigs and fruits and so on, they're benefited. So this Mayavad conception or impersonalism is rampant in the age of Kali. It's everywhere. It's all pervasive. It's just a symptom of the age, And it's not very well thought out. We were discussing this a little bit just the other day when we were reading about Ramanujacharya, and what his main purpose was to defeat the teachings of Shankaracharya, who was actually instructed by the Lord to come and preach impersonalism in the age of Kali, to bewilder the fallen conditioned souls, because that's the purpose of the Kali Yuga. Everything has a purpose. If you walk into the bar over here, it's called a Sandbox. You ever been in there? Just checking. Okay, no. If you walk into a bar and go, hey, how come there's drinks all over the place? How come there's all this alcohol here? Well, that's what a bar is, right? You expect that. If you walk into a florist, there's all these flowers and so on. So the age of Kali is, in the age of Kali, what does the age of Kali mean? It means the downfall and degradation of all the living entities. Like that. Because in the age of Kali, that's about all that's left. So as you pass through the ages, those who are pious, they leave. They leave. So all that's left, just like at the bottom of at the bottom of a barrel of apples. Right? You have a barrel of apples, and you go through all of them, and what are you going to find at the very, very bottom? The rotten ones. Right? Well, the rotten ones. So Kali Yuga means the time when the sinful people, it's their day. Everyone has their day. I mean, even you just see like Kali. Right? He told Parikshit Maharaj, you got to give me a place. You have to give me a place. So the age of Kali means, okay, it starts spreading. It starts spreading. This is the time, everyone has their day. So the demons, the non-devotees, they have to have their time too. Krishna has to take care of them. Right? Everyone has been given facility. So the age of Kali is the time for the demons. Did it come to anyone's surprise to anyone? Yeah, that's the symptom of the age. It's completely infected, like an epidemic of just all the bad qualities of Kali. Because it's Kali Yuga. They would have called it something else if it was a good time. They would have called it Dwapara Yuga or Treta Yuga or maybe Satya Yuga, but it's Kali Yuga. He got a yuga named after him. Why? Because this is his time. All the bad qualities, like that. All the bad qualities. So, but it doesn't end there, as we know. Kalki comes and just kind of wipes it all clean, and then Satya Yuga begins again. So it's not the end of the story. It's a very bad chapter. It's not the end of the story, though. So, symptomatic of the age of Kali is this Maya. If there is any type of so-called spirituality, it's the Mayavadi philosophy. Like that. And not even Brahman realization, the idea that we're all God, God's formless, beyond words. And why is that? Because it just covers. See, what is that? It just covers everything. Kali Yuga means, Maya means the covering. I can't see it. I can't see what's there. So the covering is done in the form of sense gratification. And the covering is done in this Mayavad philosophy, which leads to sense gratification. In other words, if there is any spirituality, it's covered by Mayavad philosophy. The idea that we're all God, there is no form, there's no, like that. It's just all some kind of energy, which really doesn't make any sense at all. We were discussing that the other day. If it's beyond words, then what is it? It's an illusion. So, but that passes as spirituality in the age of Kali, and it's prominent. Most people you meet who are spiritual, you talk to them for a little while, they're Mayavadis. They're impersonalists. They're into some energy, the spiritual energy, feeling the spiritual energy. But when you talk about rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or God, they get all bent out of shape. They can't relate to it. They actually become offensive, like that. The idea of becoming an insignificant servant of the Supreme Lord, that just rubs them the wrong way completely. Why? Because the mentality of the conditioned soul is what? Krishna explains it in the Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter. Ishwaraham ham bhogi. Right? I'm the supreme enjoyer. I'm perfect, powerful. I'm God. I'm the center of everything. I'm not anyone's servant. So Mayavad philosophy just kind of clicks in there. In fact, what does Prabhupada refer to it in the Bhagavad Gita in one purport? He calls it the last snare of Maya. You know what a snare is? That's a snarl. Snare. Do you snare at someone? You snarl at someone. You stare. Maybe if you stare and snarl at the same time, it's called a snare. Snare means a trap. And that's what another word for trap is snare. So the last snare of Maya is the Mayavad philosophy. In other words, you're completely frustrated with sense gratification. You know you can't be happy in this material world, so you think, I'll become spiritual. And then you get sucked into the Mayavad philosophy that I am God. That's Maya too. It's an illusion also. It's a complete illusion. But you're thinking I'm very spiritual. I'm realizing I'm God. Now the sun and the moon are rising by like that. So then this way it's the last snare. You think you're getting out of illusion, but actually you're caught. It's the last snare of Maya. Like that. Because one devoid of devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Maya. That's illusion. That's there in the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. That which has no relation or is seen as no relationship to the Lord, that is known as illusory potency. So that's also there in so-called spirituality, this impersonalism, like that. So it's already 8:28. So there's a few points here. Any questions or comments, elucidations? Yes, Mukunda. I was going to read, but I didn't get to it. This whole idea, about impersonalism and personalism. Well, why not ask the Supreme Authority? And there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna actually asks Krishna, what is better, the impersonal path or the devotional path? And that's in the first verses of the 12th chapter. And what does Krishna say? What's his conclusion? What's his opinion? Those engaged in devotional service are higher, actually the highest. And the impersonals are there, but it's a very kleshadikarastatisham. It's a very, very difficult path and so on to try to annihilate your personality. Can you imagine that? You always have the scene of the Buddhist monks who are trying to avoidism. They're all sitting there in the ashram, doing their meditation, trying to understand how they're nothing. It gets difficult. They fall asleep, and the head of the assembly has a stick and whacks them on the head. Wake up and try to remember you're nothing. I'm doing better at that sleeping. But anyways, it's just trying to understand how you're nothing or we're all one. Like that. So it's Krishna says very, very difficult. And then the whole chapter is about devotional service and how devotees are very, very dear to the Lord. So, your question, comment?
At the beginning you were talking about we want the blessings from Vaishnavas, from seniors, but just Vaishnavas in general. And so we want to please them, so all we can really do is try to please the Vaishnavas. So, of course, we can't always please everyone, and sometimes we displease some Vaishnavas by pleasing other Vaishnavas. So, or even trying to please Acharyas, you displease the Vaishnavas. In fact, sometimes you displease the majority of Vaishnavas by trying to please each. Maybe by sincerely trying to. You have
such a complicated life.
No, so even by sincerely trying to please an Acharya, you might displease the majority of Vaishnavas because they have a different understanding of what the Acharya wants, things like that. So, is that still an obstacle if you're displeasing so many Vaishnavas, but it's out of sincerity to please another Vaishnava, or particularly maybe you could say a more important Vaishnava, an Acharya?
Okay, that is a good question because we're all personalities and people have different opinions. So what to do? So first thing is your own spiritual master. And we heard this over and over and over again, just like there are people who disagree with Srila Prabhupada, there's the people who disagree with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, there's people who disagree with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and so on and so on and so on. There's people who disagree with Krishna. Right? His statements in Bhagavad Gita, they go, this is impossible, he's asking me to surrender. So the point is, who's your spiritual master? That's who you need to follow. Okay, and also your direct spiritual authorities. It doesn't really matter what the temple president in LA thinks as the temple president in SanDiego. As long as they're in line with, so because people will have different opinions and so on. So you're always safe following the instructions of your spiritual master. And of course in ISKCON, we know we have our founder Acharya. Whenever there's a spiritual institution, there's a founder Acharya. And have to make sure that we're going in concert with the teachings of the founder Acharya. So as long as you can back up what you're doing that you're pleasing your spiritual master and Prabhupada, like that, or your temple authorities, you're pretty safe. You're pretty safe. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then if you're if to please your own spiritual master, I guess I'm wondering, is there some like adverse effect if by trying to please your spiritual master other people are not pleased? So then is there some effect?
Yeah, give an example.
Well, like my spiritual master says not to do certain things in kirtana. And so to follow what he told me not to do or whatever, it might annoy other people and they might be displeased. You know, why did you do that, or why didn't you do this in kirtana? Or even pronunciation, some things like that. You know, different things. They might be kind of minor, but if spiritual master says, don't say like that, don't do it like this, and then other people kind of get annoyed by it. Like, do you know better? Like, because it might come across as, oh, you know better than me, or other thing, you know. So, is there still an adverse effect? Because I am displeasing a Vaishnava, and so he is displeased by me. But if you're doing it for the sake of following your spiritual master's instructions, that's a petty example.
Well, one thing I would say is that one should be very conscientious of that and not be offended if someone's trying to please their spiritual master with a simple thing like that as following, you know, some guidelines in kirtan, as long as they're not bizarre or something like that. So I have a little magnet, and the magnet is a picture of a dog making a funny face, and it says, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. You get that? Because people, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. So some people may be a little upset when I a little bit of this way or that way, but, you know, it's a big society, ISKCON, and we're following our spiritual master. And as far as we can see, that's what Prabhupada wants us to do. We're following our spiritual master, and there should be. The question is, why are they getting offended? Why are they all upset? You know, so I'd say, as long, you know, just like the question came up, Yudhisthira Maharaj, when he was there with Bhishma Dev on the bed of arrows, and he was very, very concerned because the whole battle of Kurukshetra. You can imagine how the weight of that. You know, how about if 5 people were killed to protect you? Like, wow. How about 100? How about 1,000? How about a few million? And the impact on society and their families and everything like that. You were the cause, Mukunda, of a few million people being killed over the last 18 days. How would you feel about that? And the devastation in society and so on. That's a lot on your plate. Right? So he asked, you know, his concern to Bhishma was, how do we reconcile all of this? And Bhishma Dev said, as long as you're following, you know, Dharma, the instructions of the sages and the scriptures and so on, the path of Dharma, you're protected. You are protected, even in such a difficult situation as far as like that. So, I mean, all these things you can discuss with people, why you do what you do and so on, in these little specific things, and try to come to some reconciliation, you know, because there are details and there are principles. When the principles are followed, that's what's most important. The details may change a little bit from devotee to devotee or guru to guru and so on, but if the principle is correct, you know, that's what's most important. But there's always going to be disagreements. Krishna and Balaram disagree. Right? There's always going to be disagreements. And you're right, you can't please everyone, because people have different opinions. But as long as the opinions are just details and not principles, when people start disagreeing about principles, then we got a problem. Like that. Then we got a problem. Hope that helped a little bit. You have to tell me afterwards, what is it you do at Kirtan? What does he do at Kirtan? Do you know he does at Kirtan? You have to tell me. Sounds good to me. Any other questions or comments? It proves that impersonalism is imagination, right? Everyone's got a different opinion. Every living entity is different. We're not all one. We all have different opinions and so on. So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All srimadbhagavatam ki jai.